Sarah stood at the edge of the cliff, clutching the worn envelope in her trembling hands. The ocean below crashed against the rocks with a rhythm that matched her racing heart. She had waited 20 years for this moment. 20 years to finally read the letter her mother had left her before she passed away. The morning sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, the same colors her mother used to love. Sarah could still remember sitting on their small porch, watching sunrises together while her mother braided her hair and hummed old melodies. Those were the days before the illness, before the hospital visits, before the goodbye that came too soon. She was only 12 when her mother died. Her father, consumed by his own grief, had given her this letter with strict instructions. Don't open it until you truly need it. For years, Sarah kept it in a wooden box under her bed, checking on it every night before sleep, wondering what words could be so important that they needed to wait. Life had not been kind to Sarah. She stumbled through her teenage years, lost and angry at the world for taking away the one person who understood her completely. She made mistakes, pushed people away, and built walls so high that no one could climb them. Her father tried his best, but the silence between them grew with each passing year, filled with all the things they couldn't say to each other. At 25, Sarah met David. He was patient, gentle, and somehow saw through all her defenses. For the first time since her mother's death, she allowed herself to hope, to dream, to love. They built a life together, a small apartment filled with plants and laughter, and for a while, Sarah thought she had finally found her way out of the darkness. But happiness, she learned, can be as fragile as glass. 3 years into their marriage, David was diagnosed with the same illness that had taken her mother. The cruel irony wasn't lost on Sarah. History was repeating itself, and she was powerless to stop it. She spent 2 years watching the man she loved fade away, just as she had watched her mother disappear all those years ago. She held his hand through chemotherapy sessions, whispered words of encouragement when he was too weak to speak, and smiled through her tears when all she wanted to do was scream at the universe for its cruelty. The night David died, Sarah returned to their empty apartment and sat in the silence that pressed against her like a physical weight. She looked around at the life they had built together, now reduced to memories and photographs. That's when she remembered the letter. She retrieved the wooden box from the back of her closet, dust coating its surface from years of neglect. But even then she couldn't open it. Something held her back. Maybe it was fear of what her mother might say, or fear that the words wouldn't be enough to heal the gaping wound in her heart. So she waited, carrying the letter with her like a talisman, a promise of comfort she wasn't ready to claim. Years passed. Sarah threw herself into her work as a teacher, finding purpose in shaping young minds and offering the guidance she once desperately needed. She saw reflections of her younger self in some of her students, the lost ones, the angry ones, the ones building walls to keep the world out. She reached out to them in ways no one had reached out to her, and slowly she began to heal. At 32, Sarah found herself thinking about having children of her own. The desire surprised her, considering how much loss she had endured. But maybe that was exactly why, she thought. Maybe all the pain had taught her that love, despite its inevitable end, was worth every moment. Maybe her mother and David had given her the greatest gift of all, the courage to love fully, knowing that nothing lasts forever. It was during one of these contemplative moments, sitting in her classroom after all the students had gone home, that she received news that changed everything. Her father had suffered a massive heart attack. By the time she reached the hospital, he was already gone. Sarah sat by his bedside holding his cold hand, and wept for all the conversations they never had, all the bridges they never built, all the love that remained unspoken between them. She had lost everyone, she realized. Her mother, her husband, and now her father. She was completely, utterly alone. That night, Sarah drove to the cliff where her mother used to take her as a child. It was their special place where they would sit and watch the waves, where her mother would tell her stories about being brave and strong, about facing life's storms with grace. She sat on the edge, her legs dangling over the precipice, and for the first time since she was 12 years old, she felt ready to read the letter. Her hand shook as she carefully opened the envelope, trying not to tear the paper that had yellowed with age. Inside was a single sheet, covered in her mother's familiar handwriting, slightly shaky from the illness but still unmistakably hers. Sarah took a deep breath and began to read. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, it means you've reached a moment in your life where you need me. And I'm so sorry I can't be there in person. I wish I could hold you, wipe away your tears and tell you that everything will be okay. But since I can't, these words will have to be enough. I want you to know that leaving you was the hardest thing I ever had to do. Every night as I lay in that hospital bed, all I could think about was all the moments I would miss. Your first heartbreak, your graduation, your wedding day, the birth of your children. It broke my heart knowing I wouldn't be there to see the amazing woman you would become. But here's what I also know, my darling girl. You are stronger than you think. You are braver than you believe. And you are loved more than you could ever imagine. Not just by me, but by everyone whose life you touch with your kindness and your light. Life is going to be hard sometimes. It's going to hurt in ways you never thought possible. You're going to want to give up, to close yourself off, to stop feeling altogether. I understand that impulse, Sarah, I really do. But please don't let the pain win. Don't let it turn you into someone who's afraid to love, afraid to live, afraid to try. Yes, love comes with the risk of loss. Yes, opening your heart means it can be broken. But oh, my sweet girl, it's also the most beautiful thing in the world. The joy of connection, the warmth of companionship, the miracle of being truly seen and accepted by another human being. These things make all the pain worthwhile. I want you to live, Sarah, not just survive, but truly live. I want you to chase your dreams even if they scare you. I want you to love deeply even if it might hurt. I want you to laugh until your sides ache, dance like nobody's watching and sing off key without caring who hears. I want you to make mistakes and learn from them, to fall down and get back up, to fail and try again. Most importantly, I want you to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for the times you feel like you're not enough. Forgive yourself for the moments when the grief overwhelms you. Forgive yourself for eventually moving forward, for finding joy again, for sometimes going days without thinking about those you've lost. That's not betrayal, my darling. That's life. That's healing. That's exactly what those who loved you would want for you. You asked me once, do you remember, why we kept coming back to this cliff even though it scared you to look down? I told you it was because facing our fears makes us stronger. But that wasn't the whole truth. We came here because from this height, you can see the vastness of the ocean, the endless horizon, the infinite possibilities that exist in this world. I wanted you to remember always that no matter how small you feel, no matter how overwhelming life becomes, there's a whole world out there waiting for you. Your father loves you more than you know. He's not good with words, not like me, but his love for you runs deeper than the ocean below. Be patient with him. His grief will manifest differently than yours, but it's no less real. Take care of each other. You're all each other has now. And one day when you're ready, I want you to pass on what you've learned. Whether it's to your own children or to students or to some lost soul who needs guidance, share the wisdom that pain has given you. Turn your suffering into something meaningful. Help others navigate the darkness because you know the way. Sarah, my beautiful daughter, my greatest achievement, my endless love. I am so proud of the person you are and the person you will become. Every choice you make, every path you take, know that I am with you. Not in some mystical, supernatural way, but in the lessons I taught you, in the values I instilled in you, in the love that shaped you. When you watch a sunrise, think of me. When you feel the wind on your face, that's me, brushing the hair from your eyes. When you accomplish something wonderful, I'm celebrating with you. When you fall in love again, yes, again because you will and you should, I'm smiling knowing that you had the courage to open your heart despite the risk. Death is not an ending, my darling. It's just a different form of existence. I live on in you, in your memories, in your actions, in the way you move through this world. Every kind word you speak, every person you help, every moment you choose love over fear, that's me still here, still making a difference through you. So please, don't spend your life mourning what you've lost. Instead, celebrate what you had. We had 12 beautiful years together, didn't we? 12 years of laughter and love, of bedtime stories and morning cuddles, of scraped knees kissed better and tears dried with soft words. 12 years of memories that no illness, no death, nothing can ever take away from you. And now you have the rest of your life ahead of you, a blank canvas waiting for your brushstrokes. What will you paint, my darling? Will you choose colors of joy and hope? Or will you let the gray of grief dominate your masterpiece? I hope you choose color. I hope you choose life. I hope you choose love. Remember, my sweet Sarah, that the measure of a life is not in how long it lasts, but in how deeply it's lived. Make yours count. Make it matter. Make it beautiful. I love you more than all the stars in the sky. more than all the grains of sand on every beach, more than all the words that have ever been spoken. My love for you doesn't end with my last breath. It continues eternal and unchanging, a constant in an ever-changing world. Be happy, my darling girl. That's all I ever wanted for you. Just be happy. Forever your mother, Mom. Sarah read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face, dripping onto the paper and smudging the ink. But she didn't care. The words had opened something inside her, a locked door she didn't even know existed. All these years, she had been so focused on the pain of loss that she had forgotten the privilege of having had something worth losing. She thought about her mother, who faced death with such grace and wisdom. She thought about David, who spent his final days making her laugh despite his pain. She thought about her father, who carried his grief silently, giving her space to find her own way. They had all loved her in their own ways, and that love had shaped her into who she was. Sarah stood up, holding the letter close to her heart. The sun was higher now, warming her skin, chasing away the morning chill. Below, the ocean continued its eternal dance, waves crashing and retreating, a reminder that life goes on, always moving forward, never staying still. She took out her phone and scrolled through her contacts until she found the name she was looking for. Emma, a colleague who had become a friend, who had invited her to dinner countless times only to be politely declined. Sarah had been so isolated, so convinced that keeping people at a distance would protect her from more pain. But her mother was right. Closing herself off wasn't living. It was just a slow form of dying. She sent the text. I'd love to have that dinner if the invitation still stands. The response came almost immediately. It absolutely does. Tonight? Sarah smiled, her first genuine smile in months. Tonight sounds perfect. As she walked back to her car, Sarah made a decision. She would live the life her mother wanted for her. She would love without reservation, laugh without restraint, and face each day with courage. She would honor those she had lost by refusing to waste the gift they had given her, life itself. 3 years later, Sarah stood in front of a different mirror, smoothing down her white dress. Her reflection showed a woman transformed, not by the absence of pain, but by her decision to live despite it. Behind her, Emma adjusted Sarah's veil, her own eyes misty with happy tears. You look beautiful, Emma whispered. Sarah touched the small locket around her neck. Inside it, a tiny photo of her mother on one side and David on the other. She had loved and lost, but she was choosing to love again. Michael, waiting for her at the altar, knew her story, knew her scars, and loved her not despite them, but because of them, because they made her who she was. 2 years after that, Sarah sat in a rocking chair, cradling her newborn daughter. The baby had her mother's eyes, the same warm brown that Sarah remembered so well. She had named her Grace for the grace her mother had shown in facing death, for the grace David had shown in his final days, for the grace she hoped to show in living the rest of her life. As she rocked her daughter to sleep, humming the same melodies her mother had once hummed to her, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in years. Complete. Not because the pain was gone. It would always be there. A dull ache that flared up on birthdays and anniversaries and random Tuesday afternoons. But because she had learned to carry it differently, not as a burden that weighed her down, but as a testament to a life fully lived, to love fully given. She thought about the letter, now carefully preserved in a safe, waiting for the day when Grace might need it too. Sarah had added her own letter to the envelope, her own words of wisdom earned through suffering and survival. One day, when Grace faced her own darkness, she would have not just her mother's words, but her grandmother's too, a chain of love and strength spanning generations. On Grace's 18th birthday, Sarah took her to the cliff. They sat together, mother and daughter, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Sarah told her stories about the grandmother she never met, about the stepfather who had loved Sarah enough to teach her to love again, about all the people who had shaped their family tree with their presence and their absence. Life is going to hurt sometimes, Sarah told her daughter, echoing words once written to her. People you love are going to leave, sometimes by choice, sometimes by chance, sometimes by circumstance beyond anyone's control. But you have to promise me something, Grace. Promise me you'll love anyway. Promise me you'll live anyway. Promise me you won't let fear of loss prevent you from experiencing the joy of connection. Grace, wise beyond her years, looked at her mother with understanding eyes. Did your mother tell you the same thing? Sarah smiled, pulling the weathered envelope from her bag. She did. And now I'm telling you. One day you'll tell your own daughter if you choose to have children. Or you'll tell someone else who needs to hear it. The message is what matters, not the messenger. She handed the envelope to Grace. You don't have to read it now. Read it when you need it. When life knocks you down and you don't think you can get back up. Read it when you forget that you're strong, that you're loved, that you're capable of surviving anything. Grace held the envelope carefully, reverently, understanding the weight of what she was holding. Not just paper and ink, but legacy, love, and hard-won wisdom. 20 years later, Grace stood at the same cliff, now with her own daughter, continuing the tradition. The ocean below crashed against the rocks with the same eternal rhythm, indifferent to the human dramas playing out on its shores. But that was okay, Grace thought. The ocean didn't need to care. They cared for each other, and that was enough. She thought about her grandmother, whom she knew only through stories and a letter. She thought about her mother, growing older now but still strong, still living the life she had promised to live. She thought about her own journey, the losses she had endured, the love she had found, the daughter she was now raising. The letter had been passed down, added to, treasured. Each generation had contributed their own wisdom, their own perspective on love and loss and the courage it takes to keep going. It had become more than just a letter. It had become a testament to the human spirit's resilience, to our ability to find meaning in suffering, to transform pain into purpose. And as the sun rose over the ocean, painting the world in colors of hope and possibility, Grace held her daughter close and whispered the words that had been passed down through generations. Be brave. Love deeply. Live fully. That's all any of us can do.